Chosen one, pause for a moment. This message is not asking you to be afraid, and it is not here to convince you that disaster is waiting around the corner. It is here because you may have reached a point where remaining still is costing you more than taking a faithful step forward. For weeks, perhaps even months, you have been asking God for clarity. You have prayed for confirmation. You have looked for an unmistakable sign that tells you exactly where to go, what to choose, and how everything will turn out. Yet the complete answer has not arrived in the form you expected. That silence has made you question yourself. You have wondered whether God heard you. You have wondered whether you missed his instruction. You have wondered if you are unprepared, forgotten, or standing outside his plan. But what if the silence is not rejection? What if God has already given you enough light for the step directly in front of you? Sometimes clarity does not come before movement. Sometimes clarity meets you while you are moving. Think about walking through a dark hallway with a small lamp. The lamp may not illuminate the entire building, but it reveals enough of the floor for you to take another step safely. As you move, more becomes visible. If you refuse to move until every room is illuminated, you may remain in the same place much longer than necessary. This could be the lesson God is teaching you now. You may not receive a detailed explanation of the next 5 years. You may not know how every relationship, opportunity, or decision will unfold. But you can recognize what is faithful today. You can tell the truth today. You can complete the responsibility in front of you today. You can pray, prepare, apologize, study, apply, forgive, rest, or begin again today. God is not demanding that you understand the entire journey. He is inviting you to trust him with a portion you cannot see, while responsibly handling the portion he has placed in your hands. If that truth speaks to your heart, comment Amen. Let it be your declaration that you are willing to trust God one step at a time, even when the entire path is not yet visible. Chosen one, you have spent enough time believing that uncertainty means you should do nothing. There is a difference between waiting on God and hiding behind delay. Sacred waiting develops patience, wisdom, and preparation. Fearful delay avoids responsibility while pretending to be spiritual. You must learn to recognize the difference. When God asks you to wait, that waiting season still produces something. Your character grows, your understanding deepens, your motives become clearer, your skills improve, your relationship with God becomes stronger. You are not simply staring at a closed door, you are becoming ready for the responsibility that may exist beyond it. But when fear is controlling you, the waiting feels different. You keep making excuses. You repeatedly ask for signs about something you already understand. You imagine every possible failure. You tell yourself you will begin when you feel completely confident, even though confidence often develops only after you begin. Perhaps you have been asking God to remove all discomfort before you obey. But obedience is not always comfortable. Courage would not be necessary if every decision felt safe. Noah had to build before he saw the rain. Abraham had to leave before he knew every detail of his destination. Peter had to step out of the boat before discovering that the water would hold him. Their faith was not the absence of questions, Their faith was the decision to move in response to what God had revealed. Your step may not look dramatic. It may be something nobody else notices. Perhaps you need to wake up earlier and use the quiet hours wisely. Perhaps you need to stop spending money carelessly and create a responsible plan. Perhaps you need to submit the application you keep editing but never send. Perhaps you need to make an appointment, finish a course, repair a relationship, or create distance from a destructive habit. You may be waiting for a powerful moment while God is pointing toward a practical responsibility. Do not despise practical obedience. A life can change because of one small decision repeated faithfully. A single morning of discipline may feel insignificant, but many disciplined mornings can transform your future. One honest conversation may feel uncomfortable, but it can end years of misunderstanding. One boundary may disappoint someone, but it can restore peace to your life. The enemy of progress is not always a dramatic attack. Sometimes it is the quiet belief that small actions do not matter. They do matter. Every repeated action casts a vote for the person you are becoming. When you repeatedly choose honesty, you become more trustworthy. When you repeatedly choose prayer, you become more spiritually attentive. When you repeatedly choose discipline, you become more dependable. When you repeatedly choose forgiveness, bitterness slowly loses its authority over you. You are building your future through what you practice in private. That is why this season may feel hidden. God is doing foundational work. Foundations are rarely admired because they are buried beneath the surface. Yet everything visible eventually depends on what was established where nobody could see it. You may want God to expand your influence, but He may first be strengthening your integrity. You may want greater financial provision, that He may first be teaching you stewardship. You may want a healthy relationship, but He may first be helping you heal the patterns that once made unhealthy attention feel like love. You may want a public opportunity, but God may be examining how you handle private responsibilities. This is not punishment. It is preparation. God cares about what He gives you, but He also cares about what His gifts might do to you if your character is not ready to carry them. A blessing received too early can become a burden. Recognition without humility can create pride. Money without wisdom can create chaos. Influence without integrity can expose wounds you refused to address. Therefore, do not resent the preparation. Ask God what this season is developing inside you, instead of asking only, "When will my situation change?" Begin asking, "Who am I becoming while I wait?" That question can transform your perspective. You will stop measuring progress only by visible results. You will notice that you respond with more patience than before. You recover from disappointment more quickly. You no longer need everyone to approve of you. You can walk away from conversations that once pulled you into conflict. You recognize manipulation sooner. You feel less attracted to environments that drain your peace. Those changes are evidence of growth. Chosen one, some things feel uncomfortable now because you have outgrown the version of yourself that once tolerated them. The conversation that once entertained you now leaves you empty. The habit that once offered escape now makes you feel imprisoned. The relationship you once chased may no longer align with the peace you have been praying to protect. Growth often creates holy discomfort. However, do not mistake spiritual maturity for superiority. Outgrowing a pattern does not make you better than the people who are still struggling with it. You are not called to become arrogant, cold, or cruel. Genuine growth should make you more compassionate, while also making you wiser. You can love people without allowing them to control you. You can forgive someone without returning to an unsafe situation. You can pray for a person while accepting that they may not belong in your closest circle. You can wish someone well without continuing to participate in the confusion they repeatedly create. Wisdom and love can exist together if you are learning to protect your peace without hardening your heart. Comment 333. Let those numbers represent spiritual alignment between your faith, your choices, and the direction in which you are growing. There is another burden you must release, the belief that you are running out of time. Comparison has convinced you that everyone else is moving ahead while you remain behind. You see someone celebrating an engagement, receiving a promotion, purchasing a home, launching a business, or achieving a dream. Without knowing the full story, you begin judging your life through the visible chapter of theirs. Then anxiety enters. You wonder why their prayer appears to have been answered, while yours remains unanswered. You wonder whether you made too many mistakes. You wonder if you missed your opportunity. You begin treating another person's timing as evidence against God's faithfulness in your life. But someone else's harvest does not prove that your field is empty. Different seeds grow at different rates. Different assignments require different preparation. God does not need to copy another person's story to demonstrate his goodness toward you. What he is building in your life may require a process that cannot be rushed. You are not late simply because your journey looks different. Consider Joseph. His dreams were real, but their fulfillment did not happen immediately. Between the promise and the palace came betrayal, slavery, false accusation, and imprisonment. If Joseph had judged his purpose by the appearance of one painful chapter, he might have concluded that God had abandoned him. Yet, God was developing qualities the dream alone could not provide. Joseph needed resilience, discernment, leadership, patience, and the ability to forgive. The destination required a man who had been shaped by the road leading to it. Your difficult season may also be developing something that comfort never could. This does not mean every painful event was sent by God. Human beings make harmful decisions. Life contains injustice, and suffering should not be romanticized. Yet God can bring wisdom, strength, and purpose from circumstances he did not delight in. Your pain does not have to become your identity. Your disappointment does not have to dictate your future. What happened to you is part of your story, but it is not the complete definition of who you are. You can grieve and still grow. You can acknowledge that someone hurt you without allowing resentment to control the rest of your life. You can admit that an opportunity ended without believing every future door will also close. You can take responsibility for your mistakes without living beneath endless condemnation. There is a difference between conviction and shame. Conviction says, this must change, and with God's help, you can change it. Shame says, you are permanently damaged, and nothing you do will ever matter. Conviction leads you toward God. Shame makes you hide from him. When Adam and Eve sinned, they hid. Human beings have continued hiding in different ways ever since. Some hide through busyness, Some hide behind humor. Some hide inside unhealthy relationships. Some hide by blaming everyone else. Others hide through perfectionism, believing that if they appear flawless, nobody will discover their fear. But healing begins when hiding ends. God already knows the truth about you. He knows the decision you regret, the temptation you fight, the conversation you replay, and the fear you have never spoken aloud. You do not shock him by being honest. Prayer is not a performance in which you must pretend to be stronger than you are. You can say, God, I am confused. You can say, God, I am angry. You can say, God, I want to trust you, but I am struggling. Honest faith is stronger than impressive language without sincerity. Bring your real heart into God's presence. Then allow him to show you what needs to be surrendered and what needs to be strengthened. Perhaps you need to surrender control. You keep attempting to predict every outcome because uncertainty makes you uncomfortable. You want guarantees before you commit. You want to know that nobody will reject you, that no plan will fail, and that no unexpected problem will appear. But control is an exhausting illusion. You can prepare wisely, seek counsel, evaluate risks, and make responsible decisions. But you cannot remove every uncertainty from life. At some point, faith requires you to release the outcome and remain faithful to the process. Do what is yours to do and stop trying to do God's part. You can plant and water, but you cannot command the seed to grow overnight. You can communicate honestly, but you cannot control how another person responds. You can work diligently, but you cannot force every door to open. You can make a wise decision, but you cannot guarantee that the path will contain no difficulty. Your responsibility is faithfulness, not total control. This truth can restore your peace. You do not have to carry tomorrow before it arrives. You do not have to solve problems that exist only in your imagination. You do not have to mentally rehearse every possible disaster in the name of preparation. Jesus taught his followers not to become consumed by tomorrow, because each day contains its own responsibilities. The teaching was not permission to become careless. It was an invitation to stop borrowing fear from the future. Return to today. What can you do today that reflects faith, wisdom, and love? Maybe you can spend 10 quiet minutes in prayer instead of reaching immediately for your phone. Maybe you can organize the space around you so your mind can breathe. Maybe you can write down the goal that has remained vague and divide it into manageable steps. Maybe you can admit that you need help. Asking for help is not weakness. God often answers prayers through people. Wise counsel can reveal the blind spot you cannot see alone. A trusted pastor, mentor, therapist, doctor, family member, or mature friend may offer perspective that helps you move responsibly. Just be careful whose voice you allow to guide you. Not everyone who speaks confidently speaks wisely. Some people advise you according to their fears. Others project their disappointments onto your future. Some encourage reckless choices because they will not have to live with the consequences. Seek counsel from people whose lives demonstrate integrity, humility, and wisdom. Look at the fruit of their decisions, not merely the volume of their opinions. Then pray. Examine the facts. Consider the consequences. Compare the decision with biblical principles. Give yourself enough space to think clearly. After that, Make the best faithful choice you can. Do not worship certainty. You may make a sincere decision and later discover that adjustments are necessary. That does not always mean you failed. Sometimes direction becomes clearer through correction. A closed door may redirect you. A failed attempt may teach you what preparation was missing. An uncomfortable result may expose a motive that needs to change. God can guide a moving person. You are not so powerful that one honest mistake can destroy every good purpose God has for your life. Remain humble, teachable, and willing to correct your course. His grace is greater than your inability to predict everything perfectly. Chosen one, there is something you have been postponing because you are afraid that beginning imperfectly will expose you. You keep telling yourself that you need more knowledge, better timing, stronger confidence, more resources, or approval from someone who may never give it. Preparation is valuable, but perfectionism can disguise procrastination. You do not need to be excellent on the first day. You need to be willing to become better through practice. The first page may be rough. The first video may feel uncomfortable. The first application may be rejected. The first conversation may not unfold exactly as planned, but every meaningful journey contains a beginning that looks smaller than the final vision. Do not compare your beginning to another person's mature result. Give yourself permission to learn. Give yourself permission to ask questions. Give yourself permission to improve gradually. Humility says, I do not know everything, but I am willing to grow. That attitude can take you farther than talent without discipline. Comment 11:11. If you are ready to stop waiting for perfect conditions and begin faithfully with what you have, let it remind you that a new direction can begin with one honest decision. Now consider the area of your life where you keep asking God to change the outcome while resisting the habits required to support that change. You may be praying for financial stability while avoiding your spending habits. You may be praying for physical strength while neglecting rest, movement, and proper care. You may be praying for a healthy relationship while continuing to entertain people who repeatedly disrespect your boundaries. You may be praying for peace while feeding your mind with constant conflict, comparison, and frightening predictions. Prayer is powerful, but prayer is not an excuse to ignore responsibility. God's help may arrive as the courage to create a budget. It may arrive as the humility to seek professional guidance. It may arrive as the strength to say no. It may arrive as the discipline to turn off the screen and rest. It may arrive as the conviction to stop returning to the same destructive cycle. Do not reject an answer because it comes disguised as responsibility. Sometimes you want God to remove a mountain, but He gives you the strength to climb. Sometimes you want Him to silence every critic, but He teaches you how to live without their approval. Sometimes you want Him to restore an old relationship, but He reveals that your healing requires releasing it. Not every ending needs to be reversed. Some endings protect you. Some disappointments expose what you could not see while emotionally attached. Some closed doors rescue you from environments that would have slowly weakened your character. You do not need to call every loss a blessing immediately. Grief takes time and honesty matters, but eventually you may look back and recognize that what felt like rejection was also redirection. The door did not close because you had no value. It may have closed because your value was being invested in the wrong place. Stop begging for access to spaces where you must constantly shrink yourself to remain accepted. Stop proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop exhausting yourself trying to receive love from someone who repeatedly offers confusion. Your worth was never supposed to be decided by another person's inability to recognize it. At the same time, examine your own behavior honestly. Spiritual encouragement should not make you blame everyone else. Ask whether you communicated clearly. Ask whether you listened. Ask whether pride kept you from apologizing. Ask whether your wounds caused you to interpret correction as rejection. Maturity can hold two truths at once. Someone may have hurt you, and you may still have something to learn. Take the lesson without accepting false shame. Make the correction without surrendering your dignity. Forgive without pretending the behavior was acceptable. Move forward without turning your heart into stone. Chosen one, your next chapter does not need to begin with a dramatic announcement. It can begin quietly tonight. It can begin when you remove one distraction. It can begin when you write the message you have been avoiding. It can begin when you place your phone down and spend time with God. It can begin when you decide that your past will inform you, but no longer imprison you. A new chapter begins whenever an old pattern loses your agreement. You may still feel temptation, but you no longer have to obey it. You may still experience fear, but fear no longer gets to choose your direction. You may still remember the pain, but the memory no longer has authority over your identity. Freedom is not always the disappearance of every difficult feeling. Sometimes freedom is discovering that the feeling can exist without controlling your behavior. You can feel nervous and still move. You can feel disappointed and still believe. You can feel tired and choose healthy rest instead of permanent surrender. You can be uncertain and still take a wise step. That is courage. Courage does not shout, "Nothing can go wrong." Courage whispers, "Even if this is difficult, God will help me respond faithfully." As this message reaches its end, do not attempt to change your entire life in one night. Choose one clear action, write it down, make it specific enough that you know when it is complete. Instead of saying, "I will become more disciplined," say, "Tomorrow morning, I will spend 15 minutes working on the responsibility I have avoided." Instead of saying, "I will improve my relationships," decide which honest conversation or healthy boundary must happen first. Small, specific action defeats vague intention. Then bring that action before God. Say, "Father, if this direction is wise, strengthen me to follow it. If my motives are wrong, correct me. If I am rushing, slow me down. If fear is delaying me, give me courage. Help me recognize what belongs in my hands and surrender what belongs in yours." God is not asking you to perform for him. He is inviting you to walk with him. You do not have to earn his attention by becoming perfect. Grace meets you where you are, but it loves you too deeply to leave you trapped in patterns that are destroying your peace. There is still time to grow. There is still time to return. There is still time to apologize, rebuild, learn, and begin again. Your last mistake does not deserve more authority than your next faithful decision. Yesterday may explain where you are, but it does not have to command where you go. Chosen one, lift your head. You are not required to see the finish line today. You only need enough light for the next step. When that step becomes visible, take it with humility. When you need to wait, wait with purpose. When you need to move, stop calling fear discernment. Let wisdom examine the decision, for do not let anxiety postpone your life forever. Practice the person you are praying to become. Practice patience when irritation rises. Practice honesty when hiding feels easier. Practice discipline when motivation disappears. Practice forgiveness when resentment asks to be fed. Practice courage when the next step feels unfamiliar. One faithful choice will lead to another. Those choices will become habits. Those habits will create a direction, and one day you may look back and realize that the chapter you prayed for began during an ordinary moment when you finally decided to move. Before you leave, support this community by subscribing and liking this message. Your support helps more people receive faith-filled encouragement when they need it most. Now take a slow breath and pray. God, thank you for staying with me through every uncertain season. Forgive me for the times I allowed fear, comparison, or shame to control my decisions. Give me wisdom to recognize the responsibility you have placed before me. Help me release what I cannot control and faithfully handle what I can. Teach me to wait without becoming passive and to move without becoming reckless. Surround me with wise counsel. Correct my motives when necessary. Strengthen my discipline and protect my heart from bitterness. I surrender my timeline to you. I surrender the need to understand everything before I obey. Heal the parts of me that still believe my past has disqualified me. Remind me that your grace is greater than my mistakes, and your guidance is not limited by my uncertainty. Show me the next faithful step, and give me the courage to take it. Let my private choices produce patience, integrity, compassion, self-control, and love. Help me become ready for every responsibility connected to the blessings I have requested. I trust you with the doors that remain closed, the answers that have not arrived, and the future I cannot yet see. I will not allow fear to write the ending of my story. I choose faith, wisdom, responsibility, and peace. Lead me one day at a time, in Jesus' name. Amen. Chosen one, you do not need every answer tonight. You need one honest prayer, one wise decision, and one faithful step. Begin there. God can reveal the rest along the way.